Elementalist is one of the subclasses which you can obtain in Soul Knight Prequel. In my opinion, it's probably one of the best in terms of DPS and usage. However, it is recommended to have a good phone to play this character because he's a bit laggy with his playstyle and the spamminess of his specials. Elementalist consists of two classes, the Tempest Mage class and the Pyromancer class, which is the Fire and Lightning classes in Soul Knight Prequel. Today I'll be going through my guide on how I built an endgame build for Elementalist. First and foremost, we have to understand that Elementalist relies on the three types of elemental damage, which is shock, cold, and fire. Their damage rotates between all of their skills. Some of them use all three of them, and some of them specialize in specific elements. However, if you want to play Elementalist at its best state, you would want to utilize all three of them. As such, when you are going for your skills, you would want one fire skill, one cold skill, and one lightning skill. In my case, I only run fire and ice because I have a shock skill which is built into a different part of my build. So first, let's go through the skill tree, which is over here. For Pyromancer's skill side, you always want to have max on the Pyroclad. It's really useful. And of course your auras. Your auras are always very important for every class. So you can see for the Tempest side and the Fire side, I have max on both auras. They give very good benefit. The radius, which it gives the bonus to friendly units, is actually given to yourself as well, which means that it's basically a flat stat buff to you in exchange for a lock to your max mana. I also go for a skill called Volcanic Rift, which is a pretty good AoE skill that leaves behind embers. Embers can later be used to enhance the skill damage of other skills, such as this impact skill, which will increase the number of meteors based on the number of embers on the ground. This is the main way you're going to be dealing your damage, together with Volcanic Rift. You pair the two and it deals a significant amount. So, both of these have to be maxed, really important. You can also add the Fire Element Explosion, which basically leaves more embers every time fire elements expire. This will also enhance the DPS of your Meteor Shower. Now, for the Tempest side, relatively, as I said, the same. You want to have max on your aura because it's really useful, and you want to have the ailment rate increase to increase the proc chance of all ailments, which is really useful because Tempest Mage, Elementalist really relies on a lot of DPS from his elements, so this is very helpful. You can also go for this skill. This skill is a Shatter skill, which applies more freeze, which is pretty useful, and the resistances is just to help you unlock all of the skills required in your Elementalist skill tree. So for the Elementalist skill tree, this is the main key feature which I was talking about just now. You want to have all three different kinds of damage, because with this skill, every time you deal one damage on the wheel of the tree, it will increase or give you bonuses to the other two types of elements which Elementalist usually uses. So you want to have all three, fire, cold, and shock. Make sure this skill is maxed. It's probably the most or best skill amongst this skill tree here, and it's really useful. This elemental beam is not really necessary, but I have excess points, so I put it into this. It's pretty cool. You want to have this as high as you can, dipole discharge. I would raise it more if I could, but there's not enough points going around. It's pretty useful. And lastly, we have these two skills. This is a extra version of the Equilibrium, which basically converts all your resistances into extra damage for your three elements, which is great. And for the Polychromator, it is a aura that is put around enemies, and this will reduce the resistances of the opponent, which is also great because it basically increases the damage output of your two other skills, which I'm using Meteor Shower and Volcanic Rift. I do have 1 point in Blizzard, which is a high level ice skill. It basically just inflicts cold damage for the trio AoE. That's its purpose. I have seen other people run icicles and in exchange for a blizzard, which is also acceptable. Or of course, you can equip a boon for icicles or ice related attacks. So as you can see here, there are ice related skills which you can use. Let me look for one right now, like the ice shower, or there's also a protector here, this one, which will also release like ice related damage, which can help towards the trio build which you are expecting. So why and how does this work? Let's just demonstrate a little bit. This is the meteor shower from above. As you can see from the explosion, I have some ice related from my boons, and it leaves behind these fire dots here. These are embers, and as a result, let me just throw this one more time, cast my spell. My spell will absorb these embers and it will release a meteor shower. All of these synergize with each other to deal a big amount of damage. So as a demonstration of how to play this character, once you have the max layout, you want to activate your auras. These are always important. And then you want to cast your aura skill to reduce resistances, and then you just start spamming away. As you can see here from the DPS, we just rise up pretty quickly, going straight up to 6 million. Now it's going up even higher. And DPS kind of plummets down from time to time depending on how fast your skill is cast, and we'll get more into that after this. Okay, so now that I've demonstrated how to use this character with the skill tree, now we move on to the bit more of the harder part to obtain, which is the fate bounce. So what kind of fate bounce are you looking for on Elementalist? Well, there are very important fate bounce and there are less important fate bounce. One that I would say is definitely the most important is Twin Novae and Echochasting. As you can see over here, Twin Novae allows all your AoE skills to trigger twice. This will affect Meteor Shower and your Volcano, which is really important. And Echochasting will trigger it a second time. So your skills will trigger one extra time after it's been casted with a 2.5 second cooldown. This would mean that with Echocasting and Twin Novae, you can cast a skill up to 4 times in one click, which is really good. It will basically mean that your Meteor Shower is dropping 4 times the meteors instead of 1. So I would say that for most builds, this is a must to have 3 out of 3 on both. You can find these on the Archwiz rings, staff, and pieces of gear. If we go over here and I show you, you can craft them, or you can find them on the Archwiz boss, which spawns at night at the night area. So you can see here the tunics parts give you Twin Novae, and as for the other one, it gives you Echocasting. You'll have to roll for the others. The next skill, the next fate bound, which I would strongly recommend, is Critical Casting, which is over here. Critical Casting increases the crit chance of all of your elemental type effects, which is basically everything about Elementalist. I think that 200% is more than enough. Some people go for 400%, but I think 200% is enough. You can find the original primary fate bounds on Trivulmite gear. As you can see over here, my Trivulmite spell threads have critical casting, and then you're gonna have to look for a secondary fate bound. You can also craft this. It is under your robes, if I'm not wrong. There we go, critical casting. All 3 pieces have it. And as for the necklace, it is the ring. The ring is the one critical casting. Alright, next up we have the lesser important fate bounds, which would be Epicenter. Epicenter is not as important, but it's pretty nice. As you can see, the main base functionality of Epicenter is to increase the damage of your specials or your skills, but it reduces the radius of your skill. So some people prefer more coverage. I prefer having more damage because it will kill the boss easier, but you can replace Epicenter with other skills, which I can show. So another one which you could swap it out for is Presence of Mind, which I don't know if I have lying around. I'll take this out. POM. Let me see if I have one. There we go. This is Twin Novae. Do I not have a Presence of Mind? I'm sure I do. There we go. Alright, so just to demonstrate, we have Presence of Mind, which basically this is, again, not for bosses, this is for clearing. Whenever you defeat an enemy, it can have a chance to reduce the cooldown of your skills by 50%. This basically means that whenever you kill a monster, you're gonna have your skills instantly recharge, and it will immediately be able to be recasted, which is really good, except for one downside, which is that when you use this set piece, you refresh your skills so fast that you will run out of mana, which makes it, as a result, you're unable to keep up the triangle, which is the three elements that you want to obtain. So as you'll only be able to use like one element at a time, and you won't gain the bonuses of the other two, which will then, as a result, start lowering your damage after a certain period of time. So I would say that Presence of Mind is really good, it's really strong, but it's not useful against bosses because you do need to defeat enemies, and it drains your mana very quickly. Another option is Concentration, which is skill cooldown reduction. Right? If you don't want yourself to immediately reduce the cooldown, you can just have skill cooldown reduction, which is always nice. You can find this on normal pieces of gear, but that also helps a lot. There's also Mage Vestments, which I believe I have. Let me put this on. Mage Vestments, which is over here. When you have 3 pieces of Mage Vestment armor, you can reduce skill cooldown by 40% and help your mana regen. I don't have 3 pieces of Mage Vestments, which is definitely something you can work towards too, and it's great. But I don't run Mage Vestments because of my helmet, which is the last Faithbound, which I feel is important, which is Lifesteal. Lifesteal is really good because Lifesteal is Lifesteal. Most characters are unable to heal on their own. Elementalist is no exception. They don't have healing abilities, and this Lifesteal bonus is really nice because high DPS means that it can heal quickly. It's very useful for high level Valkyrie Tower floors, so I would strongly recommend that you go for it. You can obtain Lifesteal as a secondary Faithbound. As you can see, I wasn't really able to get it for myself, so I had to resort to going with a premium bundle item. But this one is great because it has double Lifesteal on itself. Where can you find Infernal Masks? You can find them in the Scorched Volcano. That's where I was grinding to get these masks. They always have Lifesteal as a primary Fatebound, and secondary, well, I got lucky with this one. I think I have a second one. It's not in, yeah, it's currently equipped on a different character. Okay, just one small side ability, I guess. This is the Elemental Beam, which I was showing just now. What does it do? It's just pretty cool, I guess. It's like a beam which you can rotate around, but you can't really move while using it. One small cool trick you can do with it is that if you cast your resistance ring, you can shoot your laser at it, and it will actually fragment your laser into 3 others, which will then make a spinny thing, which is kind of cool. That's why I keep it, honestly. It does a decent amount of DPS. I can demonstrate it here. It's about 1 million at times, so it's consistent 1 million, which is still a nice amount. It's high, and it's cool. Alright, moving on to purple stats. So as we know, Season 1 is around the corner, and they are about to introduce more important changes to Volcanic Hephaestite and Weathered Hephaestites. If you don't know what that is, you can go over to your Variet. Weathered Hephaestites and Volcanics are tools which you can use to edit the stats on your items. Volcanics are used to edit your Fatebounds, and Weathered is used to edit your purple stats. However, this is going to be changed in the next update. They are going to be switching the roles around. Purple stats are really important because they can give you benefits to your skill cooldown, and as we know from this skill, which converts resistances into damage, this obviously will help your Elementalist as well. So for your stats, mainly you want to go for resistances, and you want to go for damage of the element type. Skill cooldown is also really good. So the best over here, in my opinion, is stuff like debuff resistance. Debuff resistance reduces, provides resistance for every single element. So as a result, it will give you bonuses to all 3 of the classes in the wheel. in the triangle. But of course, you can see here I have crit shock resistance 20%. All damage is always great, plus 16%. So those are things you can go for. My build does not have a lot of skill cooldown reduction. It only has, I think, 10% here and 30% on my staff. I would strongly recommend that you go for a higher skill cooldown reduction. As a result, you will be able to cast your skills more often, and it will just be better because then you'll be able to keep up your tempo, and it will help out with your lifesteal much better than how I would normally handle it. Well, anyways, that was pretty much almost everything I had to cover for Elementalist. I can demonstrate some gameplay, but before that, I want to show a trick which I use for all my guides and for all my builds. I always check the leaderboard because that's where most people are already developing the strategies. So as you can see, fate bounce on the characters is not that important. People just run whatever you want. But the most common one is Trivulmite and Archwiz. You can see Archwiz is very commonly used. This is Trivulmite. What does Trivulmite do? I guess I should just mention it. It basically allows your damage to rotate between fire, shock, and cold. And as a triple set bonus, it gives an extra secret 600%? Where is it? No, 60% crit damage rating, which is nice. 60% is a pretty decent amount. But the rotate basically allows your damage to keep rotating between the 3 elements, which means that you will never lose your triangle, which is handy. As you can see, my triangle is being maintained over here. So yeah, that's Trivulmite. And Archwiz, it's not really a useful skill. It increases your dexterity based on your intelligence, but you don't really need that because intelligence in general, dexterity in general is not needed for Elementalist. It can increase your attack speed, I guess, but you don't really need attack speed because you're spamming specials anyways. So yeah, not that necessary. So just going back into it, a lot of them just using whatever. The Staff of Archwiz is very important. That always stays the same. You can see this is in general what people are running. And I guess last and not least, I should always cover really important items, which is supporting items. So over here, one example would be the Carbunga Twin Axis, which basically when I use it, I charge it up to maximum, it will give me a buff, which will increase my size, and it increases all damage by 50%, which is really important because that will buff your damage. So if you always want to increase your damage, you can use buff items like the Carbunga Axis. Pretty useful for characters like Elementalist, which is cool. Alright. Now, some smaller things which I should cover is the boons. If you ever grind Valkyrie Tower, you will get some boons. I'm still experimenting with this myself, but I would always recommend that you get Thors Demense on any skill. It just has to be one skill. Find it, it's great. It will give you your shock damage and exactly what you need in the triangle. Really nice skill. The Winter Ice Cluster skill is also really nice. I pair it with my Volcano, which allows me to drop lots of ice spikes. Like as you can see over here, it just drops a lot of ice, which is nice because it just gives a lot of the ice element, the cold element, which is great. Alright, let's demonstrate some gameplay now. Just go through my guide on walking through. As you can see, I have Presence of Mind gear over here, so I'm just going to switch around and equip it on. Usually I switch between my Presence of Mind and my Lifesteal so that I can spam skills at the lower floors, and then once I reach boss, I switch back to my main skills. So just equip this here and put this over here. So as you can see with Presence of Mind, it basically resets my skill cooldowns very quickly, and you can kind of just mow down your enemies. It's very fun with Elementalist, very easy character, one of the best free to play in my opinion. Of course, if you're talking about best characters, it's probably going to be Shinobi, something along those lines. So some downsides about Elementalist: he's a bit slow. You will have to cast your skills a lot, and as you can see, he kind of drags himself behind a little bit, which is a bit annoying sometimes because Valkyrie is very long and grindy, so you kind of want to speed yourself up. Of course, another downside is what I disclaimed earlier, which is that by spamming a lot of skills, it kind of lags your phone a bit. So you want to have a good phone to handle Elementalist, which is a bit of a sad thing, but it pays off because the damage is really good and he's easy to play. And of course, some of the good things is that he's really cool, spamming specials and skills, which is always really nice. He has really good damage coverage because he covers like basically a whole screen, which is really nice. You can see right now we're basically halfway just by spamming it. I haven't really like done anything other than spam skills. You can see that on the right top left side, my mana is actually decreasing a little bit faster than I can keep up with. I've invested a lot into my mana to make sure that it is kept as high as possible. So that's why I haven't run out yet. But in general, you can supplement this with energy potions, which I don't have equipped right now, but you can always do that. Some other things which are really good about Elementalist is that, of course, he emphasizes a lot on element damage, which means that he has very high elemental resistances as well. So he's not going to take as much damage from elements, except for maybe dark damage. Dark damage is a little bit on his weekend. He'll still suffer a bit of that from Valkolin when you fight the Valkolin boss. Anyways, we're almost done with this. I just need to reach the boss, and that should be it for the Elementalist guide. We hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what class you want to do next. The Season 1 is just around the corner, so it's almost perfect if you want to start a new class, and I think Elementalist would be a great class to try out, so do check it out.